Welcome back to, wow, the whiteboard of wisdom. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about probably the most common mistake that the clients that we see who have failed previous approaches make. And one of the most surprising things is it's often the advice that has been given to them by their GP, physio, osteo, chiro, and that is rest. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the story. You get an injury, you go and see your GP, you Google online, you might use AI now. And one of the most common things that people get told is rest for 6 weeks and see how it is at the end of that. Now, this couldn't be poorer advice if it tried. And I've got two different diagrams on the board to explain it to you as simply as possible in the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes. And what I want to do is I want to make you or help you understand this through different physical qualities and the demands of your life, of the activities you like doing, of the sports that you may like playing. And those three qualities, and there are more qualities than this, but the three qualities that I want you to think about are strength, fitness, and mobility. Pretty much the three sort of foundational qualities, but the ones that people understand the most when they think about rehab and rehabilitating and fixing problems. And over here, this is the common mistake that people make. The dotted line up here are the physical requirements or how much mobility you need, how much strength you need, how much fitness you need for your specific sport or activity, and the demands of that. And the reason that most people get injured is that they don't have enough strength, fitness, mobility, and a concoction of those different physical qualities together to tolerate the demands of what they're trying to play. It might be football, it might be running, it might be doing it recreationally, it might be going to the gym, it might be playing with the kids in the garden, it might be gardening, whatever it is, whatever lens you look at it through, the same principle applies, that this injury happens because of the gap between where you currently are, which is here, and this is your baseline, and the physical requirements of the sport or activity that you're trying to complete. And your body can't tolerate those demands because of where it is, and it breaks down. And that's whether it breaks down with physical trauma, a muscle tear, a joint injury, etc., or whether it's spasm, protective tone, things locking up. They're all common things that people say to us. And what typically happens is when you rest, this decline or deconditioning in those physical qualities happens, and you bottom out here. So you actually get worse at the things that you were missing from the onset of the pain. And what most rehab approaches do is just try and get you back to baseline, because that's where you started. Now, there's so many different shortcomings to this, but one of the biggest shortcomings is that gap just still exists. So these are the people that return to their sport, return to gardening, return to playing with the kids, and they do it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it is, and the same thing happens. They end up right back here because we could actually just consider this a wave going on. They end up right back here because they've just not bridged the gap between where they currently are and where they need to be. I hope that makes sense. This is the most common mistake that people make. Now, this is the move approach, and this is how we get people back quickly, we get them back effectively, and we keep them back. And this approach is terrible for business, by the way, because as a business owner, how good would it be for me for you to just keep coming back in and believing that I'm helping you because I'm getting you back to pain-free and back to baseline, but you not seeing or not knowing that the gap that needs closing is the true answer and the true fix to your problem. And quite frankly, what actually happens here is that people get back to here and then they bottom out a bit lower and they just keep deconditioning over time because they just never get back to where they need to be to tolerate the demands. So what the move approach does is the injury happens and you come into us and we go through a really detailed assessment. That detailed assessment allows us to know exactly what that gap is. We know where you are, we understand your goal or your dream outcome, and we can develop a needs analysis of how much strength, how much fitness, how much mobility you need. Like I said, there's more physical qualities than that. So then we can put a really specific plan in place that means that you can at least maintain as much as possible. And the majority of our clients might decondition a little bit, but very quickly they start to super compensate, or they start to make this gap smaller and smaller and smaller over time. The reason I've left a little bit more of a time delay there in terms of the way that the strength is improving is because, quite frankly, if you're in pain, you're not going to be able to tolerate pushing your strength as early as you are improving your mobility and improving your fitness. A lot of people think, oh, I just need to rest and I can't develop my fitness or my cardiovascular fitness. Well, actually, if it's a lower body injury, we can do seated ski erg. So you're using your arm and you're developing your cardiovascular system. If it's an upper body injury, we can do lower body based cardiovascular exercises like bike to develop that. And what we actually do, we don't just objectively test your injury, we objectively test you. We look at absolutely everything, and that's what's so unique about our approach and our Pro Recovery and Performance Plan. And if this is something you're interested in knowing a little bit more about, the first link in the bio down below, it's an application form. It takes 5 minutes for you to fill out. It's essentially an opportunity for you to tell me about your injury, what your goals are. I read every single one of them, and I will reach out to basically explain to you what I recommend as the best next steps. But as your pain improves, your mobility and your fitness are improving, and you're able to tolerate pushing your body more, and then your strength starts to improve. And what we're actually aiming to do is not just get you to the demands of your sport, but we want to exceed those so that we can guarantee with as much confidence that when you return back to your sport, you can tolerate that. I worked in professional rugby, international sport for nearly 10 years. And this was the single biggest thing that allowed me to achieve success. And one of the most unique sessions that I did within any rehab approach was a worst case scenario a worst case scenario session. And all I'm trying to do in that session is understand the sport and what that certain player or individual's demands are. And obviously we've got loads of data that we can track and bits and pieces there. And I want to take them to 110% of a half of rugby or a half of football or a half of netball, or run at a higher intensity in their intervals. I just want to exceed that and know that they can hit 110%, and they can therefore tolerate the demands of their sport and activity, get back there confidently, get back there and enjoy them, and also bridge the gap, because like some people might go back here and won't feel up to speed, they won't feel confident, they'll need 4 to 8 weeks getting back up to speed, and then still only be here because they've just not finished the rehab process. All rehab is strength and conditioning with a constraint of an injury to consider around it. And that's again why with that Pro Recovery and Performance Plan that I mentioned earlier, we aren't just your physio, we don't just do your rehab, we do all your strength and conditioning work, we do all your training, we do all your mobility, we help with lifestyle, nutrition, sleep. It is a fully comprehensive package so that we, with as much confidence, can guarantee that we don't just get you back to baseline and you get stuck in this injury loop. We don't just get you back to your sport. We exceed those demands, and we guarantee with as much confidence. And ultimately, I say this to my clients all the time, I want to be able to look you in the eyes, shake your hand and say that the job is finished. And I want to be able to back that up with objective data that we've collected right from day dot, or as early as possible in from the injury onset. And we have retested at regular intervals, and we have just seen you be able to hit all of the KPIs, so the key performance indicators, to know that you've earned the right to safely and effectively get back to your sport, your activities, whatever they are, and you're good to go. So I hope that makes sense. The big takeaways: don't rest. There's always something that you can do. Like I said, mobility might be the first thing that we focus on, but it needs to be tested. It needs to be specific. Not just the 3 best exercises that you've found on social media or on YouTube for your knee pain, for your ACL, for your back pain, whatever it is. Then we can think about, right, how can we improve different physical qualities? It might be fitness, it might be strength. There's lots of different modalities as well that we can probably introduce these things earlier, but it's very individualized in that regard in terms of what you have access to, how much time you have, etc., etc. But the biggest shift you can make, if you're watching this, you're currently injured, get out of this rest mindset, get out of just trying to get back to baseline and get out of the injury cycle. Start having a performance-focused rehab approach. From day dot, find someone that is going to be able to tell you exactly where you are with regards to your injury, but then also your overall performance, that can then put a plan together that takes you back and exceeds the demands of the sport or activity, whatever lens it is. Whether you just want to play with the kids, garden on a regular basis, we've now helped over 4,500 people at Move, whether that's a combination of online, in person at our Harrogate HQ, hybrid clients that come and see us once a month, and then we do all of their programming away from here. A very wide range of people. And this is our approach: is we want to understand the demands of your dream outcome, where you are, and then basically how to fill the gap in between. So like I said, there's a link in the bio if you want it. The second link in the bio is 30 ways in 30 days to fix your injury. I'll just send you a free gift direct to your inbox every single day with a piece of injury advice. So yeah, if you're injured, first link. If you're injured and want more wisdom from the whiteboard, hit the second link, and I look forward to chatting.